Hi, welcome back. Now we're finally, I know you're so excited about this, we're finally going to look at how to complete the square, which was the title of the lesson that we started the other video. But now we want to look at it and think about completing it. That means you probably have to add something or do something, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to add something so it can be written as a perfect square. So you're going to, first of all, find A, B, and C. Oh, we've done that before, haven't we? Then we're going to take B and divide it by 2. So B divided by 2. Then, whatever we get for that answer, we're going to square it. So square the answer in step 2. Okay? And then whatever we come up with, we're going to add it. And if need be, both sides or just to the polynomial we have. Okay, so not too many bad steps. Let's look at a couple examples of just how to complete the square. Okay, so maybe we have something like this. Now your book likes to ask it this way. They'll say x squared minus 26x plus c. What should c be to complete the square? So whether it's there or not, you know, I got to go find a and b. So I did. I found out that b is negative 26. Okay. Then my next step was to take negative 26 and divide it by 2. So step 1, step 2. And you get negative 13. And I think step 3 said square it. So negative 13 squared is 169. Okay? So C needs to be 169. In other words, we could write it as x squared minus 26x plus 169. Now, we get to practice the thing we did yesterday, writing this as a perfect square. So, think about 169, what's the square root? Oh yeah, 13, and we need it to be negative. So, that's a quick way to write it, okay? Let's try another example. Maybe it won't say plus c, but it'll just say complete the square. So, once again, find b, and really, I guess a isn't all that important. So, 22, we take 22 and we divide it by 2, which gives us 11. Step 3, we square 11, and it's 121. And then we're just going to add it. So this becomes x squared plus 22x plus 121. Okay? So what's the square root of 121 again? Oh yeah, 11. The answer I found. So it's just x plus 11, quantity squared. Okay? So, now, hopefully that doesn't seem too difficult because we want to use that technique to actually solve the equations. So let's move on down to our next set. And this is entitled Solve the Quadratic Equation by Completing the Square. Now wait a minute, didn't we already talk about solving it? And we've talked about completing the square? It's like we're going to combine them together. Okay? So here's our example. And if you notice, I left some space here because we kind of go through the same steps. So I guess the first thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to complete the square. Okay, so notice our A is 1. That's going to be kind of important. So I'm not even going to write down step 1 because we won't do it yet, but you'll see it in a couple more problems. So step 2, find B. Okay. Step 3 is b divided by 2. Step 4 is b divided by 2 squared. Step 5 is add it, right? Okay. Here, let's renumber. 1, 2, 3. It's like a counting show. 4, 5, 6. Okay. Add it to both sides. Right as a perfect square. Oh, wasn't that a step we talked about? And then we square root. Oh, yeah, that's a step we talked about when we were solving. And then you square root it. And now we'll say get x by itself. And it might be a z or an s or a t, but get the main variable by itself. Okay? So, here we go. We're right here. We've got x squared plus 6x plus 4. Now, some of you might go, 4 is a perfect square, so I should just write it as a x plus 2. Yeah, but that's not going to give us a middle term of 6. So what we need to do is get the ax squared term and the bx on one side. So in this case, all we need to do is move that 4. So how are we going to move it? Oh yeah, subtract it. So we go and we subtract it, and now we're left with x squared plus 6x equals negative 4. So now we can jump into our steps. Find b. What's b? Oh yeah, b is 6. Okay, so we need to divide 6 by 2, and we get 3. And then we need to square it, and we get 9. So what do we do with that? We add it to both sides. So we get x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals negative 4 plus 9. And because there's an equal sign, you have to do it to both sides. Okay? Now the next step says write it as a perfect square. And you think about, well, what is the square root of 9? Oh yeah, it's 3. That number we found, right? So x plus 3, and it's squared. And think about it, your outer terms would be 3x, your inner terms 3x. Oh yeah, it gives it to us. What is negative 4 plus 9? It's 5. Okay? So what do we do next? We square root it, do-doot, and we get x plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 5. Now this is where simplifying quadratics, or simplifying radicals comes in. Is there a perfect square that goes into 5? Nope, so we'll just leave it. And now the last thing is get the x by itself. So we need to subtract 3, and we get x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 5. Okay, now you think, oh my gosh, that's a mess. Yes, it is a mess. This is helpful for things that won't factor easily. Okay, so once again, if we put in either negative 3 plus 5, square root of 5 or negative 3 minus square root of 5, it would give us 0. It will cross the x-axis at these numbers, and it just means they're not perfect like 1 or 3 or 5 kind of numbers. Okay? All right, let's go on to this next example. Now, whoa, there's a 2 there for a. That cannot be good. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to add another step. And I know you might just get motion sickness, so go get one of those motion bands or Dramamine if you need to. But we're going to move back to our steps. Come with me. Follow along. Okay? And we are going to divide everything by A. Okay? So you can't have a number in front that's not 1. Okay? Let's move back and try the problem then, okay? I know, and my wheels aren't very good, sorry. So my camera doesn't go very well. All right, so what do we need to divide everything by? Oh yeah, 2. So we get n squared minus 2n minus 7. And some of you might be saying, Mrs. Roth, you didn't divide both sides. I did now, and you still have 0. Okay? Now we go through our regular steps. So we need to find b. b is negative 2. So we're going to take negative 2 divided by 2, which gives us what? Negative 1. Oh, you guys are so good. Take negative 1, square it, and you get positive 1. Oh, you know what? I got so excited about this, I forgot to do something. Were you yelling at the screen going, do step 2, Mrs. Roth? You're right! We need to add 7 to both sides. Okay? So we've got n squared minus 2n equals 7. And now we get to do all that fun stuff with the b and the dividing by 2 and the squaring. So we are going to add 1 to both sides. Okay? And what do we do next? Check your list. Oh yes, we write this as a perfect square. What's the square root of 1? It's just 1. Oh yeah, and we want the negative, and that's what we got. So n minus 1 squared, and you have 8. What do you do now? Oh yes, square root, so you get n minus 1. Now, square root of 8, does a perfect square go in there? It does, 4. 4 times 2. What is the square root of 4? Oh yes, it's 2. This guy has to stay underneath, and you've got the plus or minus. Now what do you do to get n by itself? You add 1. And remember, this has a square root and this does not, so you cannot combine them. They're not like terms, okay? Once again, this would be kind of a funky number on the number line. But this is where it crosses the x-axis. If we plug these in, it will give us our 0. These are the solutions, okay? One more example. And once again, we're going for the big deal here. Oh, check it out. It's a polynomial. It's a quadratic equation, but it doesn't start with a, or with 1. It starts with an a. Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Positive 12 divided by 3 is positive 4. Negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6, and we have 0. Now, I'm not going to mess up twice in a row. We need to move the c to the other side, and I just did that. So we have x squared plus 4x equals 6. Now we get to do all the fun stuff. Find your b. It's 4. Divided by 2. It's 2. Square it. It's 4. Kind of seemed pointless, didn't it? So we've got x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 6 plus 4, because you add it to both sides. And now we get to write this as a perfect square. And remember, this b divided by 2 number is what we'll use. Okay, we square it. And then that's 10. What do we have left to do? Square root, x plus 2. Please don't forget that plus minus, because we do need 2 solutions. Notice, can you simplify this? 2 and 5. There's a perfect square, we're done. It just looks ugly. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 10. Okay? And this is it. You're done. Okay? So we will be practicing this sometime soon. See you later.